Good morning, everybody. So last Tuesday, many of us went to Verve to have coffee. And while I was waiting for my tea actually to be prepared, they had music playing, and the music that was playing was Stevie Nicks's song Landslide. So I'm going to play that for you for a minute so you'll recall what this song is. Let's see, here we go. Play. Of course, we're having technological difficulties here. Okay, let me. I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hill. Okay. Can you hear it online? Took my love and I took it down. Climbed a mountain and I turned around. And I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills till the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Well, I've been afraid of changing 'cause I built my life around you. But time makes you bolder. Children get older. I'm getting older too. So okay, I'll pause the song there. So I think that gives everybody, y'all remember that song. And I think it's a very evocative song, just the tune of it. So I was like thinking to myself, you know, it's pretty low, and I'm like thinking, well, I don't remember the lyrics to this song. And I just remember this song from, back in the day. And so I went and I looked up the lyrics and I thought, well, I'm going to give a lecture on the lyrics to this song. So the first verse is, I took my love, took it down, I climbed a mountain and I turned around and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills till the landslide brought me down. So what is that about? And I think, Stevie Nicks actually gave an interview about this with Oprah. And what she said was that this was kind of before her career took off. And she had been, this was 1974, and she was tired of working as a waitress. And she and her partner, who was, I think, also her singing partner, they were like super poor and really struggling. And she thought, well, she worked during the day and then she wrote songs all night. And she said, it was really nerve-wracking and affecting my relationship with my partner. I was working as a waitress during the day and writing songs all night. And then she basically had this fear, that if she didn't do something about this, her whole dream was going to fall apart about what she could do. And that's why she called it Landslide. So the first part is, I took my love and I took it down. So these dreams, so of course, this is my interpretation of the song from a Buddhist perspective. So, we have to take that with a grain of salt. So the way I understand this is that she's saying she took her dreams down and she took a good look at her dream. And from a Buddhist perspective, I would say this is like looking at our deepest intention. What is our deepest intention? What do we want? Suzuki Roshi called this the inmost request. So I would say, strictly speaking, from that point of view, it's answering our call to benefit all beings. It's our true nature, our Buddha nature. But, actually, this is too vague as an inmost request. We need to bring it down to something about our own lives. So for Stevie Nicks, this bodhisattva vow, if you will, is manifested in her singing. It's manifested in the gift that she gives to others through her singing. So I find this song very moving in that way. I don't know, somehow it evokes in me some sense of longing, but a sense of wanting to go forward. So I find it very positive. So each of us is unique, and each of us is asking this question, so what is my contribution? And the contribution, of course, has to come through love. So that's this love that she's speaking of, this intention about making music. So she says, I took my love, I took it down. So I think it's this introspection, this way of looking at, what is it that she loves? What is it that's most important in her life? And then the next question is, can she step off that 100-foot pole, as we would say in Buddhism, and find that dream? And Ehe Koroku Dogen wrote, taking a step forward or backward at the top of a 100-foot pole with a single mind, turn and transform yourself. So taking that step with this single mind of intention, backwards or forwards, because you know how Dogen is. So backwards or forwards off this pole, off this top of this pole, and transform yourself. So this is a moment when you know that you're going to make a decision that's going to shift the trajectory of your life. And that's what Stevie Nicks was doing. And then Dogen said, have the whole great earth and all people finished expounding it or not? So have the whole great earth and all the people finished expounding it yet or not? Finished expounding the teachings, the Dharma. And then he said, expounding 1 yard cannot be done without practicing 1 yard. Expounding 1 foot cannot be done without practicing 1 foot. So this hearing, listening to, responding to what our deepest request is this stepping off the 100-foot pole. But the way we step off the 100-foot pole is by practicing right now with our life as it is right now. And when we can do that, our practice is going to guide us in knowing the path we should take. The next lyric here is, I climbed a mountain. So this climbing the mountain is to go up beyond the kind of pressing issues, the immediacy of the difficulties or questions or problems she was trying to solve. Like, for example, working as a waitress. So this kind of nose to the grindstone, because that's what needed to happen for them. They were very poor. But to go up on the mountain and take a more global look at your experience. And when we go up a mountain, our tendency is, because we need to pay attention to what we're doing, is that we're just looking down at each footfall. If you've ever gone hiking, done a kind of hiking trip, you know that, especially if you're going uphill, you're usually looking down at your feet, and you're walking along and you're kind of like, okay, this step and this step and this step and this step. But when you stop, especially if you're carrying like 30 or 40 pounds, when you stop and you look up, you go, wow, this is pretty amazing what I'm looking at. So she's in this process of climbing a mountain and then stopping and looking around. Dogen wrote in Uji, the nature of the truth of this yesterday and today lies in the time when you go directly into the mountains and look at the myriad peaks around you. Hence, there is no passing away. It is the time right now. So this nature of yesterday and today, which is everything that's come before and what is happening right now, we take that and we go directly into the mountains and we look at the myriad peaks around us. So we go in to this state of this willingness to have introspective view of the nature of our experience. And then in that introspective view, we're able to actually feel this complete presence of the present moment, this wonder of our life and of our aspiration. And then it says, she wrote in the lyrics, I turned around. And I understand this to mean that she looked at herself. She turned around, or we would say you turn the light inward. So she turned around, looked at her situation. She stopped and she looked around and she said, you know, she let the whole of the earth, the great earth, and speak. Dogen says, he says here, this part about, you know, hearing the voice of the great earth, and all the people are expounding the Dharma. So this ability to turn around and look and to hear the voice of her inmost request, to hear what she most deeply wants in her life and how difficult that is. So she has this complete experience of realizing and connecting with this deep request, and then how she wants to express her life's energy. And then she says, in the text, she says, I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills. I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills. She saw herself, I would say, as a part of a larger whole. She looks out and sees the hills, and they are covered with snow, and she sees her reflection in those hills that she looks out upon. Maybe what she sees is the journey to get to that place, to stand on top of the mountain. We don't know exactly what the metaphor is, but this sense of some kind of change and shift of her perception. Maybe what she saw was her deepest desire being reflected back to her. Maybe she saw that and was able to respond to that with her courage to go forward and respond to that vow, if you will. So this returning for us to the Bodhisattva vow and the specificity of what that is and how difficult sometimes that can be. We say, you know, dropping the self, allow myriad things to come forward and meet us. Sometimes that's super, super hard. And it's not an abstract notion. It's a willingness to actually be aware of the totality of everything that's happening in the specific moment that you're in. Also being aware of the delusion that you kind of generally as a person get caught in, and how you can respond at that moment and overcome that delusion. And whether it is, as we were talking about in the Uji class, maybe that delusion is thinking that you're a terrible person in that moment. And that is a delusion, as much as thinking that you're some, you know, paragon of practice. So willingness to let go of that, because that kind of mindset is all consuming, to let go of that in the moment and try to actually understand, what are the mountains saying to me? What are all beings saying to me? What is it that is speaking to me in the totality of myriad things coming forth in this moment? All the causes and conditions of this moment. So I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills. The next line she says is, till the landslide brought me down. The landslide brought me down. So I would say that standing at this apex, maybe she was thinking about things abstractly at that moment, maybe having some kind of global vision about this. But there was this moment of complete impermanence, this moment of realizing that there was a complete rearrangement of her life at that moment, a rearrangement of her sense of self. And this was the landslide that brought her back to her old self that needed to be integrated into this new self. So this reflection that she sees of the self, and that's where the landslide is. So the landslide is she's seeing the reflection of the self with all the snow or whatever, and then suddenly there's just an avalanche and it all falls apart. So this moment of a willingness to let it all fall apart, a willingness to completely let go of our preconceived ideas. So we see that what we thought was happening is no longer what's happening. What we thought was happening was no longer stable. And in that instability, it all falls apart. And when it all falls apart, it becomes and rearranges itself into something different. This moment of the rearranging is a really important time, to stick with that and not immediately go back to what our comfort zone is. That's a very fruitful time. And it's also a really scary time at the same time. So she says, you know, till the landslide brought me down, her idea of self falls away. And in that moment, there is this moment of no self that we can see in that moment. And then she essentially steps off the 100-foot pole and she finds this clarity of purpose by seeing this landslide, the avalanche of the self. And then, of course, because we're human beings, it's scary. It's really frightening to have that moment. It may be elating, but it's the same time, there's this moment of fear in this transition. And so this is where the chorus comes in of the song. She says, I've been afraid of changing. So we are afraid of changing because I've built my life around you, but time makes you bolder. Even children get older. And I'm getting older too. So the first part of this is, I've been afraid of changing. Our old ways of viewing the self, maybe they're more comfortable, so we're afraid of what's new, and we're suspicious of change. And so in Stevie Nicks' case, when she wrote this song, she was 24 years old. So, you know, our 20s, our early 20s, remember those? Our early 20s are this, you know, deep kind of exploration. We've barely gotten out of the house when we're 24 years old, and we're just starting to blossom as human beings, as ourselves. So in a way, this is a transition from childhood to adulthood. And often we are very, very busy, but we're also very introspective at the same time. I don't know about you, I've gone back and read some of my journals from when I was 24. It's amazing all the wise things I said in the midst of being totally screwed up at the same time. So, you know, this is this time she's in 74. And also on top of that, there was all that social change that was going on. All of the women's rights and the people of color rights, all of those things were happening during that time. So, and the Vietnam War, everything seemed to be up in flux. And so this was a kind of crossroad. It's a crossroad for her. It was a crossroad, I think, for our culture and our society in the United States as well. So all of that was coming up. And then she says, so I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you. So the way I'm interpreting that from a Buddhist perspective is I've built my life around my sense of self, this self-image of ourselves that we tell ourselves about ourselves and about our place in the world. So this fear of change, especially when we're holding on to a need to maintain a certain view of ourselves, can be very dangerous. It's a very dangerous, it's a fruitful time if we can go with it, if we can allow it to happen. But it's a very dangerous time if we close up and get very tight and we become very possessive of this because we're afraid of the self that we built being annihilated in some way. So it's very, very personal. And then we experience fear at that point. So our culture right now, I would say, is having that experience. We're battling with each other. We're battling with each other because our views about the nature of what should happen are very much tied up with our sense of self. And because they're tied up with our sense of self, we have to fight about this. And it's very difficult to compromise. And I would say that's for both sides. So we have an issue like abortion. So there's, one side that is like absolutely abortion, we should have abortion, it's the women's right to choose. And I have fixed ideas about when abortion should be able to happen. I have fixed ideas about what that looks like. And then there are other people on the other side who are saying, no, we shouldn't have any abortion at all. I have totally fixed ideas about that. It's like people shouldn't even be able to use contraceptives. So is there a compromise in there? But the only way that we can find that compromise is that we acknowledge the fact that we're holding on to our views so tightly because they represent to us who we are as a person, and that this is a personal affront to our understanding of self. So of course we can't find any compromise. Of course everyone gets really violent and upset. So this manifests as culture wars. But it is really about how we understand the nature of self and how much we're willing to open up. So we believe that our view is empirically a right view, and that right view is the view that is the structure of how we understand ourselves. But here talking about Stevie Nicks' song, I think she's talking about her willingness to let go in some way, to take a leap. And then she says, but time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too, from the ripe old age of 24. But I don't want to make fun because it's serious. 24 is an important time when all of the time of our lives are important times, right? It's like every one of these transitions that we make from where we are and where we sit are super, super important. And they're key to our development. So she says, time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. So when I wrote my commentary on Uji, when I was in the process of writing it, I had to let go of old ideas of who I was, that I wasn't worthy somehow to write a commentary on Uji, on something so seemingly so difficult as writing a commentary. Goodness gracious, even on Uji, that people would laugh at me, that I would get it wrong. So I had to let go of that each moment. As soon as I would start to write again, I would get really engrossed in the writing and I would forget the self and just be really engrossed in the process of what I was doing. But every time I stopped and had to go back and start again, I would have to overcome all the fears that I had. And one thing that helped me a lot was somebody said, this is a conversation. You're having a conversation and you're just adding something to the conversation, which took a lot of pressure off of me. But I had to let go of that. I had to let all of that fall away over and over and over again, it seemed. So it was still part of my process. And I was getting older, and this was important to me because this was something I really wanted to do. And the fact that I was getting older made me bolder to go forward with this dream that I had. So how would I make this dream happen? And I was no longer in my comfort zone. And I had to ignore that and go forward with my inmost request to write the book. And also I had encouragement from all people in the sense that the students I was teaching at the time, Ryuki was part of that class, the students I was teaching at that time with the Dogen seminar were very, very encouraging. So that encouraged me. So the students became the mountains and all beings expounding the Dharma. So I had to practice with this. I had to let go of this fear and be willing to step off the 100-foot pole. So when we feel that we have to make change and it's scary, we're suffering. That's a form of suffering. And yet we want to make this new path. So when we continue to get older, we feel like it's now or never. And she probably felt like, she felt like this transition in her life from being somebody who was living to just do this job so that she could pay the rent to somebody who was going to leap, make that leap and make that transition into becoming a full-time songwriter and singer with her partner. To make that change is scary, but she saw, okay, I'm getting older, and then I need to do something and I need to make this decision, which she did. And now, we know about Stevie Nicks because she made this decision. And so this is the nature of time, I would say. And it's pulling at us, aging, knowing that we are getting older, and that transition from childhood to adulthood and all the things that come after that. And then she's, children grow up, I get older. So she says, okay, I've got to do this now. I have to really make this decision. And, we have this expression in Zen about before the donkey leaves, the horse arrives, or before the horse leaves, the donkey arrives. And so, basically what does that mean? It just means that whenever there's a transition, it's not like usually like bang, this side. It means that there is something through line that's happening. So there's that through line, maybe of fear, the through line of courage, the through line of leading up to that decision, making that decision, and what comes after that decision. So she's saying, I can't be stagnant. And at the same time, I have to acknowledge the fact that it's not going to be easy, that all these things are probably going to compound upon myself at the same time. So it's now or never, and yet at the same time, we still have to deal with our fears and anxieties as we go forward. So the next verse is, oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within me rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the season of my life? So, oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within me rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? So this mirror in the sky, what is love? I'm going to say the mirror in the sky is the moon. The mirror in the sky is this full round aspect of life. And in Buddhism, the mirror is realization. So we see this fully round aspect because this is our Buddha nature. This is what we understand in Soto Zen, that we are already Buddha. So what do we see? We see ourselves in a mirror, and we see this mirror of the full moon of realization. So this reflection is our life. This reflection is the expounding of the Dharma. If we have eyes to see it and ears to hear it, if we have eyes to see it and ears to hear it, we are encouraged. We are bolstered. We see this essential altruism of our life. So this is one of the reasons why we practice. And this moon reflects back to us the image of the self. It reflects back to us the image of the small self, as well as the image of the enlightened and realized self. We ask, what is it? What is this thing we have come to question? As we look and see our reflection in this mirror in the sky. And she says, and what is love? What is this connection? What is this compassion? What is this longing? What is this life? What is birth and death? Everything tied up in that question. And then she says, can the child within my heart rise above? Can I grow up? Can I let my true self, which includes the child, which includes that kind of sincerity of what it is to be a child, that passion of what it is to be a child? Can I rise above my fear and my insecurity about change and connect and bring that into my life as an adult and incorporate and integrate those feelings? She says, can I sail through the changing ocean tides? So this is impermanence. Tides go in, tides come out. Every tide that comes in is a different tide than the tide that came in before. Every tide that goes out is a different tide than went out before. Every time we sail this life, this moment, every time it's different. And yet it's also very familiar too. So this way of impermanence, can I navigate the changes in my life? Can I navigate from this moment to this moment to this moment and the big changes that happen in my life? Which is why I think she says, can I handle the seasons of my life? Can I negotiate with equanimity and wisdom the seasons of life, which are spring or new growth, things being apparent to us, summer, which can be a time of great blessing and joy, autumn, which is a time of transition from the seasons. We feel that usually very strongly in the autumn. And then the winter is a feeling of dormancy, of things being hidden, of growth happening beneath the earth that we cannot see. So all of these qualities are happening. And of course, that transition from spring to summer, we don't exactly know when that happens. Again, that's going back to, before the donkey leaves, the horse arrives. So time continues, we continue, we face forward into our life and we practice. And how we meet these questions, sometimes with difficulty, sometimes easily. Sometimes we're going to suffer, we're going to experience joy. Sometimes we're going to feel equanimity, sometimes we're not. All these changes that are happening in our life. So we have to keep checking with ourselves. We have to remind ourselves of our vow. What is my deepest vow? When we don't want to do the right thing, what is my deepest vow? What is my bodhisattva vow? Now in the third verse, which is the last one I'm going to talk about, the third verse is, take my love, take it down, climb a mountain and turn around. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, the landslide will bring it down. So now it's switched to third person. So this switch here seems to be addressing someone else. Who is she addressing? Maybe she's addressing her true self. Maybe she's addressing who she wants to be. So she says, take my love, take it down. You, this third person, are you, this realized being, take this dream, take it down, allow it to be reshaped. And then climb a mountain and turn around. So climb this mountain and you'll see a bigger view. Maybe climb this mountain with me. We climb this mountain together. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, as you climb this mountain, you will see some lingering reflection of who I was. So that is impermanent. Take it down. That is impermanent. The transition is complete. Things are in constant flux. It's okay. I feel like this last verse is, it's okay if what you see when you see this. So the landslide will bring down my reflection in the snow-covered mountains. and that that's all right. And so there will be something different that you will see about myself than perhaps what you saw before. Okay, so, the life of our society and our lives, I would say at this are kind of at a pivot point right now. So how do we get here? We can look back and we can see, yet perhaps the most important thing is, how do we go forward? That was the question she was asking. How do I go forward? How do we drop our old ideas about ourselves or the things that make us feel comfortable? Feeling comfortable is not necessarily a problem, but when it is a problem, can we let go of that need to do that? Can we let go of our old ideas about ourselves? So can we see our reflection in the moon of realization? And from that perspective of standing on the mountain, seeing a larger voice, seeing a larger vista, hearing the voice of all beings, hearing the voice of the mountain, practicing with compassion and wisdom combined, can we respond to ourselves? Can we respond to each other? Can we respond to our life as it is right now? Thank you.